Yeah, cool. Ready when you guys are.
Well, stuff. Hi, GirlCoders. This is the GirlCode podcast, and today we'll be talking recruitment. And joining us today is tech recruitment guru Vanessa Raath. Welcome, Vanessa. Thank you so much for joining us today.
It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you, ladies, for having me. I think what you guys do is absolutely amazing. I love GirlCode, and I'm happy to help where I can.
No, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Can you please just share with us as to how you got into recruitment and particularly tech recruitment?
It's a funny story because no
Yeah.
one as a 6-year-old goes to their mom and turns around and says, I want to be a recruiter one day when I'm big, right? Everyone wants to be a
Yeah.
fireman or a teacher. So basically, no one chooses recruitment. You fall into recruitment, and
Mm-hmm.
most recruiters will tell you that. So what I pretty much did was I had quite an interesting life. I'm actually a qualified teacher. I
Oh,
taught in the
wow.
UK for 8 years. And then after my 8 years were up, I went and lived in Thailand, and I trained as a scuba diving instructor. And then I basically traveled around the world for 2 or 3 years, just being a bit of a dive bum, and ended up in Kenya, and eventually decided it was time to come home. And then I went to a recruitment agency to apply for a job to do like adult education or training or something along those lines.
Okay.
And they said to me, why don't you try recruitment? And I was like, well, what is recruitment? I've never heard of it. What does it entail? And the next week I started, and the rest is kind of history. So I did 2 years in agency recruitment, and then I did 9 years in internal tech recruitment, which is how I kind of fell into the tech side. So I
Yeah.
worked for a company that's now called Ultron Carabiner, and they are in the Microsoft application space. And I recruited for them for 9 years, and I literally just launched my own business. I turned a year old last week on the 1st of April, April Fool's Day.
Congratulations on that. Well
Thanks, man.
done.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a great journey over the last year. So what I do now is I train recruiters to recruit better and to service, your community better, how to
Yes.
find tech talent. And then I still do global sourcing myself. So I'm still involved in moving talent globally all around the world and finding the best people and either getting them to stay where they are in country and work remotely or to relocate to other cities.
Wow, that's so awesome. So you went from teacher to scuba diver to
Yeah,
recruitment
to beach
extraordinaire.
bum.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. You've got to try everything in life once, right?
No, 100%. And it's always insightful hearing about someone's journey and the challenges that they faced, you know. It helps
Yeah,
you
but
realize that.
if you
Mhm.
look at all my whole journey, and this is what I always say to people, is it's always been people focused. So I've
Yes.
always had a common thread of people. So I think that there's a lot of learnings that you could have done in any of those roles to help me do what I do now.
No, definitely, definitely. With all the interactions. No, I couldn't agree more. And now I'd like to divulge into the technical stuff.
Okay.
So when it comes to preparing for an interview, we know that
Mm-hmm.
this is a very crucial part of the interview of the recruitment process, and
Mm-hmm.
usually a very scary moment for your first
Yeah.
time around. And can you please just share some interview etiquette tips for our Go Coders?
Well, let's start where you started the question with, is when you know that you're going for an interview, because what
Yeah.
you've got to do is before we even get into the interview and we start talking about etiquette, I've got to talk to you about research. So
Okay.
before you go for an interview, you have to do your research on the company. So you need to understand, what is the company structured like? Are there subsidiaries? Which brand are you going to be interviewed for? Have you been given a role description for the role? Have you studied that? Have you got experience in any of the duties or responsibilities that are going to be required of you? Is the company a listed company? How well are they doing? Could you manage to, if they're a JC listed company, you can look at their financials online. So there's lots and lots of research you can do, even down to the people that you are meeting with. So you need to ask the recruiter, who are you meeting with? Then check out, who you're meeting with. Look at their LinkedIn profile. See what you can find out about them. You don't have to tell them in the interview that you stalked them on LinkedIn, but just get a feel of, what the person is like. Look at them on other platforms. You might have been at the same conference as them or the same community night. You can share with them that, you saw them present at this occasion, you thought it was very good, etc., etc. But it just kind of breaks the ice, and it shows that you are interested and there's a passion for what you do.
No,
Um,
definitely. Yeah. And
So for
also,
me, your research is so important before you even step in the door to do the interview.
yes, okay. But it can also definitely motivate you even more
Absolutely.
and help you be
Yeah. And
slightly more
also,
calm. Yeah,
yeah, more calm because you're going to have more confidence because you
correct.
know about the company. You're not going to
Yeah.
be thrown off track. And then actually in the interview, so one of my pet hates is when people come in and I can see that they're nervous and that's fine. But by all means, when you shake my hand, I don't care if you're male, female, or other, give me a firm handshake and look me in the eyes. I know that it does come
Mm,
down to like a cultural thing,
yes,
and sometimes this is something which you taught you shouldn't be doing, but you should, because in the business world, that is the way, and that's what we're expecting. So give a good handshake, look the person in the eye, and straight away you start exuding confidence.
yes. No, definitely, I agree. It's just that, when you're raised to believe that it's disrespectful to look people in the eye. It's just, yeah, the whole cultural change.
Absolutely.
Yes,
And I get it. And I've spoken to this to a lot of my Black friends and all of those things, but it's really something that you need to get over when you're going for an interview, because it just shows that it just resonates so much around like the confidence and, you making a connection with the person by looking them in the eye. A lot of, say, for example, let's call a spade, in the white culture, if you don't look someone in the eye when you're talking to them or you're shaking their hand, it's taken as like a disrespect. You don't really care. Where I know
yes,
in your culture it's slightly different. So just something to remember, depending on who you're meeting with. I mean, I know if I shake hands with a person of color, I'll always give a traditional African handshake
yes. No,
because I
definitely.
also want to put people at ease, but not everyone's going to do that. So I think we're all learning, hey, South Africa, it's an interesting place.
No, definitely. I mean, the diversity is what makes us so great. And also it also helps to have these kind of conversations, because these kind of tips, it's not something you would necessarily learn in varsity. No one's going to tell you that.
No,
You know what I'm
no,
saying?
it
So
takes someone as honest and as straightforward as me to tell you this.
100%, which is why we're so excited to be doing this today. So,
But I really do recommend it. And then let's talk about now. So you've arrived for the interview. You
mhm,
obviously look smart for the interview, which is great. I don't have any problems. I've never had anyone come, who's been underdressed. I think that students know how to dress these days. Those days of not dressing correctly are gone.
yeah.
You've given a firm handshake. You've looked somebody in the eye. And now you're going to start the interview. So it's always good to have a copy of your CV with you, just to have in front of you,
Okay.
because they're going to have a copy of your CV. So it's
Yes.
always good so that if they ask a question, you can quickly just have a look and say, refer to it. Or another thing which they're probably going to ask is they're going to ask, would you like something to drink? Okay, now this
Mm,
is not the time to ask for a cappuccino. Okay, the reason behind this is because, or anything that's a hot drink, you first of all don't want to knock it over, you don't want to spill it. Okay, and you also don't know how long the interview is going to be. Now, I don't know about you guys, but it can sometimes take me up to a full half an hour to drink a drink if it's really hot. Okay,
yeah.
so
Yeah.
always ask for a glass of water. You must have something in front of you, because if you ask a difficult question, it always buys you a bit of time if you want to think about your answer, which is always a good idea. So take a sip of water,
Okay.
swallow, think
Yes.
about your answer, and then
Hmm.
go back to them with a really good answer. So you must have a drink, just don't order a warm drink.
Okay. No, that's a very useful tip.
Because
I never.
yeah, there's nothing more awkward than the interview's finished, because at a grad level the interviews can be pretty quick and you're
Yeah.
done in 15 minutes, yet you've got a hot cup of coffee in front of you and you're like, oh shit,
Okay.
do I leave now, do I take my coffee with me? This is
What to
awkward.
do? Yes. Whereby with
Yes,
the
yeah,
water, you could have taken
yeah.
sips gradually during the
Mm.
15-minute
And
conversation.
always when you finish the interview, even if you've got a water, you can pick it up and walk out with it more easily than you
In a
can
cup
with
of
like a cup
tea.
of coffee, yeah, or tea or whatever it may be.
100%, 100%. I've never actually thought about the whole accepting a drink during an interview. I'm usually just way too nervous to even
Mm.
think of that.
Yeah, so
You just
just
want
some
to
other
get
things
into
to
it
help.
and just get out.
Absolutely. One thing you must do is when you get into the office is go to the bathroom, because there's nothing worse than needing the bathroom during an interview, especially when you can't concentrate. I know what it's like. You can't concentrate because you need to go to the bathroom, and then you can't because you haven't been. So first thing you must do is go to the bathroom. Another thing about the interview is don't arrive too early. So if your interview is at 2:30 in the afternoon, like this
Mhm.
meeting is,
Yes.
Don't arrive at 1:30 thinking they're going to think more of you. Okay. What
Okay.
you're going to do is you're
Mhm.
actually going to throw out people's diaries because people are busy and they're probably in back-to-back meetings. So my best advice
Yeah.
is to arrive at the reception with 15 minutes to go, in between 20 and 15 minutes. So if
Okay.
I had an interview at 2:30, I would
Yes.
arrive at 2:10 and I would say to the receptionist, look, hi, my name's Vanessa. I'm here for an interview. I know I'm early. My interview's only at 2:30. And then the receptionist will normally know. She'll say, okay, well, they're in another meeting now. I'll wait. Or, okay, no, well, they said if you arrived early, then they can start early. So let me get in touch with them. So, yeah, leave it in their hands. But don't arrive overly early.
All right. So 15 to 20 minutes is the cap.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. No, that's interesting because we are under the impression that the earlier you are, the better. And you know,
Yeah, I noticed. I've been through
yes.
this before.
Yeah. Even from personal
But you know what?
experience. Yeah.
Yeah, it's personal experience. But it's you know what? I don't mind, but I understand. Again, I've taken the time to get to understand your culture, and and I just ask people like, your interview's at 10. It's now 8:30. Why are you here? So
Hmm.
I've I've had those kind of conversations with people, and yeah, rather not, because people have very much a structured day with set meetings, and you don't want to be the one to throw out the entire day.
Definitely, definitely. And also, I mean, if they know that you're there, they're not necessarily just going to keep you waiting for like 2 hours.
No. And I
Yeah.
would like to think that they wouldn't, to be honest,
Mm.
because that's rude.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, definitely. And then when it comes to feedback, why is it not deemed like a standard practice for recruiters to give feedback? Because we find that a lot of candidates would like to know which areas that they could possibly improve on, and not possibly make the same mistakes for future interviews.
Absolutely. And you know what? I totally get that. I completely and utterly understand.
Mm.
For me, at what point of the interview process do you find, though, that you're not getting feedback? Because, like, for example, an advert goes up for a learnership or grad role or whatever, bearing in mind that the recruiters there are going to get something like 3,000 applications in this country.
Yes.
Now, they will normally have a disclaimer on the advert saying, if we don't get back to you, consider yourself unsuccessful, or if we don't
Mm.
get back to you in 3 weeks, consider yourself unsuccessful. Okay.
Correct. Yeah.
Now, at that point, I understand if you don't get individual feedback. Now,
Yes.
I agree with you. If you've been for the interview, if you've been through the assessments and you still don't get feedback, that is terrible. That is really not acceptable, and you are well within your rights to keep emailing, phoning, SMSing the recruiter to say, look, please, might I have some feedback, good or bad. Especially if it's bad. I mean, I always feel that you want to tell someone how they can improve for next time. It's an important part of life. It's an important part of growing in your career. So my
Exactly.
advice with that is that, so I train recruiters all the time. I promise you, I speak to them about being personable, about getting back to people, about putting yourself in your candidate shoes, etc., all the time. I really do. So I'm hoping that things will get better there. But if you've taken the time to get there for an interview, have the interview, and they don't get back to you within a week or two,
Yeah.
you are more than within your rights to actually go and follow up with them.
Oh, okay. So you are able to actually contact them and ask them for feedback.
Absolutely. Why not? Yeah. No, you mustn't.
Yeah,
No,
because you
you mustn't
never
hang out.
think that
Yeah.
you can, that it's actually possible.
You
You
have
think,
taken the time to go all the way there. You've paid for the taxi money. You've organized the lift. You've been through the interview. It's your right.
yeah, no, that's true. Oh, wow. Okay. No, that's a pretty
Yeah.
interesting one. No, because that would
Yeah.
help
Don't.
a lot, because now you just left in the
Absolutely.
dark. You don't know, okay, so what are the next steps? And then you go into the next one, it's same behavior,
Yeah.
and then, you don't get anywhere.
Absolutely. No, I couldn't
Mm.
agree with you more. And I think it's one of my pet hates. And I think it's also, plays a large part about how the recruitment industry has developed quite a bad name for itself. And I think it's something that we need to get better at.
Yeah, no, definitely. I agree there. But it helps that we actually are well within our rights to actually ask.
Absolutely.
Yes, no, I mean, that's great. And within GirlCode, we have a lot of unemployed IT graduates, and yet
Mm-hmm.
we see that a lot of tech companies are complaining that there isn't talent out there. And we have seen that there is talent, especially when we're hosting our annual hackathon. So what do you
Mm-hmm.
think exactly is the missing link? between?
Sure. You know what I think it is? I think it's miscommunication. I think that,
Mm,
okay, so let's look at it from both sides. I think that clients, it's very easy for all companies to turn around and say that there's no talent here and they can't find anyone. But
yeah.
I don't think that they're looking in the right places. If you've got a lot of
Okay.
people who are part of GirlCode and they are unemployed, you need to be partnering with more companies to say, this is what we've got. You need to be developing portfolios or one-page profiles of the people who are sitting waiting for work that you can share with your companies.
Yes.
Because the more exposure that you have, and then down to the people who are saying that, you know, I'm looking for a job, what are you doing about that? What do your online profiles look like? You know, are you on LinkedIn? Do you have a GitHub account? Are you on Stack Overflow? What is your presence like on these? Are you spending times like this when we're all in lockdown, trying to connect with IT recruiters on LinkedIn? You know, there's a lot of
100%.
activities that people could be doing, and I think that there's good and bad on both sides. So, for me, it's down to the individual to stand out more. Are you writing a blog? You know, are you sharing with other people? Um,
Yes.
you know, how are you giving back? How are you standing out from other people on social media? Because that's how you're going to be noticed, right?
100%. So basically, you can leverage off your social media and focus more
Absolutely.
on
But on
using that to
LinkedIn,
your
because
advantage.
that's the
Yes.
that's
'Cause-
your professional network. And then you want to be connecting with people who are IT recruiters in that space. Send them your CV, tell them that you're available, you know, share articles, comment on posts, get active.
Yes. No,
Don't be shy. This is not the time to be a retiring wallflower.
go out there and get what's yours. Yes, I couldn't agree
Exactly,
more.
with both hands.
Especially with platforms like LinkedIn, where you have access to
Absolutely.
so many professionals who could help you actually get a job, especially in this day and
Absolutely.
age. Yeah.
Yeah, go and comment on whoever's saying that there's no talent in South Africa. Tell them, put your hand up and say, hey, I'm here. I'm talented. Look at me. You know, but people don't do that because you don't always want to push yourself and put yourself forward like that. But you have to, because no one else is going to do it for you.
Yes, I agree. However, what I would pick up is that most people are actually quite scared to post on social media because they're afraid that they'll be judged.
That's a chance that you take. But I mean, what are you
Yeah.
what are you thinking of posting that you're going to be judged so badly? I mean, if you're posting that you're available for work and these are your coding languages, I mean, what's wrong with that? I think we need to kind of get a little bit braver on social
Mm.
media. We need to put ourselves forward because at the moment, no one knows that you're looking. Look how much interaction someone gets when they, I mean, it's happened a couple of times. There's like someone standing on a street corner with a billboard saying, I'm a electrical engineer. These are my qualifications. I'm looking for work. And that is just shared all over the place, you know?
Yes, no,
And I
that's
think that
fantastic.
those people are really putting themselves out there and they're really serious about finding a job. If you're sitting there complaining that you can't find a job, but you're not blogging, you're not active on LinkedIn, you're not connecting with recruiters, and I know it can sometimes come down to shyness, but it's the new South Africa now. You know, we don't want to be sitting in the back row waiting for someone to find us. If you don't put yourself out there, it doesn't matter what your race is, what your gender is, and think about it. Companies want black female coders.
That is very
That ticks
true.
big.
That's
And the problem is that black female coders are still almost being too shy, too respectful, you know, too, oh, I can't do that. But you know what? If you do, it's going to make a hell of a difference.
no, definitely, especially since there's such a huge shortage of Black female professionals
Exactly.
in the different
Exactly.
spheres.
But you know why there's a shortage? Because we don't know about you. Sure, we know about
Yeah.
organizations like GirlCode, but we don't know about individuals who are making themselves stand out. And I encourage anyone listening to this podcast, you are more than welcome to find me on LinkedIn. My name is Vanessa Raath. My LinkedIn is linkedin.com/in/Vanessa Raath. Find me, link up with me. I'm probably not going to be able to help you find a job, if I'm honest, because I'm not doing any local recruitment. But
Yeah.
what you can do is you can watch the way that I behave on LinkedIn and how active I am on the platform. And I encourage you to try and be, you know, as active as I am.
No, definitely. In the same token, should people censor what they post? Like, for instance, taking part in like political conversations and
Absolutely. But LinkedIn is not
yes,
a place for political conversations. But you
yes,
know
no,
what's happening
like your
at the
Twitter.
moment? Yes, as I was about to say, watch your Twitter. So
Yeah.
Twitter thinks that everyone, whatever you put on Twitter, no one will see. But I'm telling you now, even as graduates, people are checking out your online presence. So that means they're going to check you out on your Facebook, your Twitter, your Instagram. And it's not like you can turn around and say, no, you're not allowed to,
Yes.
because those are my personal platforms. Those days are gone. Okay. So first of all, don't just now think, okay, I'm going to be a smarty pants and I'm going to lock down all of my profiles, because that's worse. So let me paint a picture here. So if I'm
Yeah.
doing a big grad recruitment drive and I
Okay.
go and look at someone's online profiles and they're heavily locked down, I'm not going to even get in touch with the person. And the reason I'm not going to get in touch with the person is because I want to know what they are hiding.
Hiding. Yes.
So I'm not interested. I don't have the time to find out what you're hiding. I don't even, but the sad situation in this is that you're never going to know that, because I don't have the time
Mm.
to pick up the phone and say, I'm not choosing you because of your social media lockdowns, or I'm not choosing you because I saw on social media, on Twitter, you posted something that was very political. It's not going to work in our company. So I'm just not going to choose you. And that is a massive reason why people aren't being selected for jobs these days, because they think those are their personal accounts. No one can look at them. And when I have
100%.
conversations with young people around this, they turn around and say, but how can you do that? How can you look at our personal profiles? They're personal. You know what? I want to make the right hire. You can think what you
100%.
want. I'm telling you how to behave. What's more important, putting out political statements and looking cool in front of your peers, or finding a job? You decide.
Yes, and the job isn't just about your technical skills. Holistically,
Of course not.
you need to be a great
Yeah.
person as well. I mean, to fit into a team, even, you know,
Yeah, you don't
ethics
want to
play
hire
a very
someone
huge
who's
role. Mm,
absolutely. You don't want to also hire someone who's going to rock the boat.
exactly.
I mean,
Exactly.
that actually causes you more hassle than anything else. So I'd rather not take a chance on someone who's very political, who
Yeah,
posts inappropriate photos, who talks about, activities they did, the night before, which I don't think would be a good reflection, if they were doing that in company time.
100%. Especially even now on social media, how it becomes very clear where you work, who you work for. So they, whatever they post in a sense, they're kind of like a mouthpiece for the company as well, even though they're doing it at their own personal capacity, but
Mm-hmm,
can be
mm-hmm.
viewed in a certain way by people
Absolutely.
who,
And you know
yeah,
what? Why take that risk?
exactly.
Yeah, that for me is the big thing, is, why take that risk? Like for me, my rule of thumb is, if you were thinking of posting something, okay, don't post anything that you wouldn't put on a billboard on the M1. Okay, that's very important. And in the
Good
same
one.
breath, don't post anything that you wouldn't tell your mother.
No, 100%, yes, because you'd never be disrespectful or derogatory towards her.
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. And that's the important side. The most important thing there is, because too many people just think, oh, heat of the moment, I'm going to do it. And then you sit at home wondering why, you're not getting a job. And it's because no one's going to phone and tell you it's because of one tweet that you posted 6 months ago that got a lot of traction and got a lot of attention, but it didn't put you in a good light.
exactly. And it would be so disappointing to know that you've lost out on a great opportunity just because of one sentence.
Exactly. But what the problem is that you're actually never going to know.
Yes, that's the sad part.
Yeah. Yeah. And I
Okay.
see it happening all the time. And I've been there
Yeah.
and I've done that. So you've got to just be careful.
Yeah, no, I'm in agreement with that. And then I've got one very tricky topic, the salary
Good.
negotiations. When is the best time to negotiate for a salary? Is it in the beginning, or after a few months once you've shown some sort of value?
So for me, definitely not if you are going and you're applying for a graduate position and the salary is that everybody who joins is getting like the same stipend in the organization. That is not the time to start negotiating
Yeah,
your salary. That is like take it or leave it. There's probably, for every time someone declines, there's 4 people waiting to take that learnership. And you also don't want to be that grad who starts and then is already on the back foot because, like, oh, she's the one who argued about salary. So especially not if you're joining a learnership or an internship, because those salaries are set. There's nothing you can do there. Now,
Mm-hmm.
after you've been there for a year and maybe you're a permanent member of staff and you've proven yourself and you've got concrete evidence, so you can sit with your manager and you can say, okay, well, if it's a consulting environment or something, you can say, well, you put me on this project, I did 20 hours a week, this is the value that I added, etc., etc. So you can prove that you've added value and you may have, saved the company some money.
All right.
Or if working at maybe like a Standard Bank or something like that, one of the banks, and then you can say, okay, well, it's now my annual review, and let's this discussion. Go with hard and fast things that you've done where you feel that you have saved the company money.
Okay, so it would also help, for instance, for people who work with projects or work on projects.
Yeah.
Let's say you managed to save up on budget, for instance, or your project was completed in record time. So those
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
things, would you recommend?
Absolutely, but also say that there was no scope creep. You went and you worked a couple of extra weekends,
Yes.
et cetera, et cetera. I think that that's also important, because and you've got to remember these things, because there's nothing worse than walking into your annual review, and then what actually happens is that you've forgotten all of the great things you did throughout the year. So you almost need to have like a running list on your laptop saved of what you did that really you feel was a great achievement.
Oh, yes. So that you're able to list everything when it's time
Mm-hmm.
for your annual review. Okay, no, that's fantastic. That does make a lot of sense. And then in closing, Vanessa, what's your number one tip for someone who's listening right now and is struggling to get a job?
Guys, so start taking it to social media, and when I talk about social media here, I'm talking about tidy up your Facebook, your Twitter, and your Instagram feeds. Don't lock them down. Okay, that causes more suspicion, but just check and see what you're putting out there. It's very easy. Go to Google, put your name in inverted commas, and run a search. Okay, and
Yes.
then start standing out from other people on LinkedIn. So you don't really even need to be blogging these days, but you can be sharing articles. Remember to curate the articles. It's hard when you're sitting at home and you can't find a job. Share some thoughts around that, post about it on
100%.
LinkedIn. Don't be all
Yes.
doom and gloom.
Yes.
Negativity doesn't attract people to you, but, maybe give it a little bit of a light-hearted twist. Use this time now when we're all on lockdown to get as much done as possible. Neaten up your LinkedIn profiles, connect with the right people. Again, model your LinkedIn profiles on mine if you want to. Just kind of make sure that you're standing out and you're doing something different. And it's actually easy to do that on LinkedIn these days.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much for taking the time to have a quick chat with us. That was very insightful, and we'll be very excited to be sharing this with our GirlCoders, Vanessa.
Awesome. So also just let them know if they want to ask questions. I'm pretty good on Twitter, so probably the best place to ask some questions. I've been answering a few questions today. And thank you, ladies, for inviting me. And if you want to do like a series 2 with more questions, I'm open for it.
100%. Thank you so much, Vanessa. Enjoy the rest of your day.
No worries. Keep well, ladies.
Thanks, you too.